Americans are investigating how to flee the country in record numbers after Donald Trump's win and the electoral bloodbath that Democrats and the left suffered on Tuesday. There's a Reuters article by Lewis Jackson, which points out that based on search data, it is clear that a record number of Americans are now researching, how do I move out of the United States? The reasons are clear. Despondency, disappointment, disgust. They don't all start with D, but a lot of them do, I guess. Dissatisfaction with what is going on, total and complete exhaustion with the fact that we have to acknowledge, guys, even though we find this entire MAGA movement disgusting, tens of millions of Americans like it and prefer it to Kamala Harris and prefer it to Joe Biden. Now, what I want to do is approach this kind of tactically and morally. Let me do morally first as far as leaving. Every election, I get calls from people. I'm thinking of leaving. Should I leave? Are you thinking of leaving? So let's first establish just a couple of different things. When it comes to the morality, anytime someone talks about leaving, you have a group that shows up and says, oh, you're just going to leave rather than trying to fix things. That's not the right thing to do. That's not looking out for your fellow American. That's not, you're just thinking of yourself, huh? I am not going to shame anyone if they decide, I just have to get out. I love activism. I'd love to improve things, but I've got to get out because it's what's best for my family. Not going to shame anyone. We have 340 million people in this country. They're not all activists. You need to do at some point what is best for you, what is best for your family. And if you determine, hey, you know what? It's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years. We could have a MAGA Supreme Court till 2050. I've got to get out. I am not going to shame you for determining that that's what you have to do. What I do want to lay out are some of the challenges and considerations that I might think about. First of all, in general, if you want to leave the United States and go to another country, there are a number of different challenges. It's not that easy to move to most of the countries I assume you would want to go to. There are countries in South America where if you can go and either find work or enroll in school, you have a path to normalization within a couple years. In Argentina, there's others. But my instinct is the economies of a lot of those countries are not stable enough to actually be attractive to most Americans. So when we think about the places I assume Americans would want to go, Canada, Western Europe, some of the developed Asian countries, Southeast Asia, maybe Australia, etc. It's actually kind of tough to leave the United States. There are immigration restrictions, visa limitations, financial and logistical barriers. It's expensive. If 60% of the country is living paycheck to paycheck, how are you going to move to Denmark, even if you could figure out a way to legally go there? Language barriers, of course, cultural differences, which can impact quality of life. Most people have a life where they live. Even moving across the state or country completely upends their life. The UK, what are we even talking about? And also, you could end up in a country that doesn't offer the rights, protections, or quality of life that you actually want. Maybe accessing healthcare would be difficult. What about retirement benefits? What about all of those things? And also, it's important to remember, even if you leave the United States as an American citizen, you still have tax obligations here in the United States. So that's number one. Secondly, what I would urge some folks to consider if you're at the point of, I just have to get out. Listen, I'm in Georgia. I'm in Texas. I'm terrified. I have a daughter. What's going on with women's rights and access to reproductive health care? And I'm worried about them coming after me even for who I like on Facebook or what I follow on Instagram. I do think it's important to say, consider moving to a blue state. Now, again, there's a moral case. We don't abandon the red states and go to the blue states. We stay in the red states and turn them blue. I'm with you 100%. But like I said, I'm not going to shame someone if they say, I remember this caller I had a couple months ago. My child is trans. I live in Mississippi. I'd love Mississippi to be better, but I think I've just got to get out and I've got to move to, I don't remember, they were considering Maryland or something like that. How am I going to say, no, you're wrong for doing it? I live in a blue state, right? And one of the things that suggests to me that if you're determined to get out of where you are, if you're in a red state, consider a blue state, is that you have no citizenship issues, you have no work permit issues, you don't have to deal with an immigration process, you can maybe retain closer connections with family and friends, the language barrier is resolved, it's much easier to do, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. The standard of living in a lot of the blue states is as high as Norway and Finland, okay? Look up HDI. HDI is the Human Development Index. This is a sort of blended metric that accounts for access to healthcare, education, longevity, income, quality of life, a bunch of these different metrics. States like Massachusetts, Connecticut, I believe to a slightly lesser degree, New York, California, Oregon, and Washington. Okay, these blue states, they have an HDI number similar to some of the best places in the world to live. Does being in a blue state protect you from everything Trump can do? No. There are federal issues that, of course, are of critical importance and Trump will affect. But the states that have figured it out, a lot of these things are not impacted nearly as much by what federal government does. And so if you're committed to leave, I would just consider that as an option. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work. I am really thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you'll read it. The book is called The Echo Machine. And in a nutshell, it looks at how American politics got so broken, who has already figured out solutions, and how we can try to fix it and stop the terror of Trump for the next 4 years. With Trump winning this election, The Echo Machine couldn't be more relevant, not only a warning about how we got here, but also about what might be coming and how to prevent the worst outcomes. We've got to stay engaged. We need a plan, and that's what the book is about. There's a belief out there that unless you have corporate media behind you, you can't have a successful political book launch, that it's not possible. I think we can prove that wrong. Order The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold. You can also call any local bookstore and say, please order me The Echo Machine by David Pakman. Wherever you get the book, you'll get the free pre-order perks, including the signed book plate. Head to davidpakman.com/free book stuff after ordering.